Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine radio show here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. I think I've made my point now. This is a radio show. I think the best way to listen, if you can, is on your local AM or FM station. Outdoor radio, that's an interesting concept, isn't it? Especially in the world today of social media and of live streaming and of podcasting, to do a radio show. Radio, in my mind, was like, well, not in my mind, undisputedly, one of the early forms of mass communication, of broadcasting. And it's still strong today. Very strong today. And the fact that I've been in broadcasting now of one form or another since I was a kid, since I was like 22 years old, something like that. Been doing it more than 40 years now. I think it's interesting to see the evolution of communication and my personal evolution on how I have tried to reach people. Started out as a news videographer, the guy behind the camera, down at WJRT TV 12 in Flint. Did that for a couple of years. Worked my way into doing some reporting. Ended up, half behind the camera, half in front of the camera. Made the jump up to WNEM TV 5 in Saginaw, which at the time was the big dog. I mean, that was a huge jump. That was a good deal for me. There I was a reporter, and still did some video stuff, but mostly shot my own video. Did some reporting, covered agriculture, covered crime, and decided, I don't want to cover city council meetings my entire career. What can I do to combine my passions, which are videography, storytelling, and the outdoors? Because as a kid growing up on the west side of the state, I grew up hunting and fishing in the outdoors on a farm. And at the time, there was this show on TV called PM. Well, no, I'll back up. So I started doing some outdoor reports. I snuck them into the newscasts. I had to come up with a newsy angle on them or an economic impact angle to justify to the powers that be why I was out covering these hunting and fishing stories. And they got a good response, as you would imagine, here in Michigan. People love that kind of stuff. So I started doing more and more of them. And then we started this thing called News 5 Outdoors. Now, if you remember News 5 Outdoors, you're old. But I am too, so it's all good. That was very, very popular. There was a show on TV5 at that time. It was called PM Magazine. So I pitched a proposal to the powers that be, said, let me out of the news department. Let me produce a monthly outdoor television show. And the powers that be said, yeah, we think it's a good idea, but we'd like to call it Outdoor Magazine so we can play off on the popularity of PM Magazine. Well, I was so happy to get the opportunity, I didn't care what they called it. So yes, we can call it Outdoor Magazine. Did that for a while and turned it into a weekly show and got to the point where it kind of outgrew TV5. Now, the show was also on some broadcast stations around Michigan. So I left TV5, formed my own company, made the show weekly, got it on, at the time, the Outdoor Channel. I was one of the early shows on the Outdoor Channel. Eventually moved the show over to Sportsman Channel. And then after about 20 years, I had an epiphany, and it wasn't me having an epiphany. It was God pounding on my head saying, this isn't the right move for you anymore. Make a change. Get out of it. And for several reasons and factors that I won't go into here, I did get out of television. And it did scare me at first. I thought, oh man, what am I going to do? You know, I'm the outdoor television guy. At least I was for many years. That's how I think of myself. That's how people relate to me. Well, I had started this little radio gig. What do they call it? As a side hustle these days. I'd done that a few years before. Started that show out on WMAX in Saginaw. And it was a 1-hour weekly show, a live show. Expanded it to 2 hours. Picked up WTRX in Flint. They were sister stations, so I was on 2. Then had the opportunity to join a statewide network out of Charlevoix. Did that for a few years. That network kind of went belly up. There was another network waiting there that I had been talking to for a long time. They said, come on over to us. But if you come over to us, it's got to be a 3-hour show. So there I am, doing a 3-hour weekly radio show as my main gig. Social media wasn't very big yet at the time, so it was strictly the radio show and some Facebook posts or whatever. Since then, things have evolved and morphed into the 3-hour weekly radio show that's now on 33 stations. Podcasting. I do make a podcast version of the show available. And a lot of social media stuff, too. So my point in this whole convoluted story here is as I look at how communication and reaching people has evolved and changed. It used to be, back when I was at TV 5 years ago, if I wanted to go live, I needed a videographer, I needed a live truck, I needed a studio at the other end with a director, a producer, an audio guy, an engineer to make this whole thing go live on the air. Right now here in the radio studio, as I was getting ready to record this show, I did a live segment called Behind the Mic, and I did it with my cell phone and a laptop. It is so much easier these days to reach people. And the area that I choose to live, the world that I choose to live, is the world that I am passionate about and love, and that's the outdoors, hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping. So it's been a good ride. Honestly, I have absolutely loved it. I have absolutely enjoyed it. And I look forward to continuing to try to take advantage of new technologies and new ways to communicate. I'm a geek at heart. I'm an outdoor enthusiast and a tech geek at heart. So I love this stuff. Okay. I'm not really sure how I got off that off track and down that path. Anyway, I wanted to start talking about the weather. Man, it's been cold, hasn't it? Ice anglers, you're smiling now. I know you are. I'm not so much. I've had enough shoveling. I've had enough cold. I've had enough snow. The forecast for next week calls for it to be warmer. That will be a nice break. I have not been ice fishing. I'm not much of an ice fisherman these days. I used to ice fish a little bit. I love to fish, but I'm an open water guy. I understand the appeal of ice fishing. I know there are people who would rather ice fish than fish open water. It's just not for me. It's for one thing, I don't have the equipment. I don't have the gear. Today's serious, hardcore, big water ice fishermen have as much gear and as much money tied up in their rig and as I do almost in my summertime fishing. I find it constricting because I don't do it right. You know, I would drill a hole in one spot and I would sit there and wait for fish. I know that's not the right way to ice fish these days. The right way is to move until you find fish. I get that. So what I'm doing right now, in my mind, is I'm already moving ahead of season. Now, I realize that you should never wish time away. You should never wish your life away. You should always enjoy the opportunities and the experience and what is in front of you right now. But still, even with that in mind, I find myself looking forward a couple of months to turkey season. I love turkey hunting. The gobbling and the anticipation and the excitement. That's what I'm looking forward to. Upcoming turkey season. I'm looking forward to using that new harvester blind from Primal. I'm going to use my crossbow again this spring, maybe a new broadhead from Rec. I'm so excited about that. Also excited about our big Trinity Monitor Wild Game Dinner and Auction coming up Saturday, March 2nd. Tickets are now on sale. Go to the website, one.bidpal.net/Trinity Monitor. That's a mouthful, I know. one.bidpal.net/Trinity Monitor. You can get your tickets now. Or if you go to my Facebook page, you can scan a QR code there that'll take you right to the website. Some wonderful live auction items, including African safaris, bear hunts, coyote hunts, youth hunts, Saginaw Bay walleye trip, Detroit River walleye fishing trips. It's going to be a riot. Tickets on sale now. one.bidpal.net/Trinity Monitor. Coming up on this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show after the break, outdoor writer and fishing enthusiast, fishing guy Dave Rose talks about early season ice fishing. Then Bill Pyles of Ohio Bowhunting Outfitters unveils details of our 2024 outing in Ohio. We've moved it back a week. It's closer to the rut. In hour number 2, Matt Tagget of Rec Broadheads talks about some new products they have unveiled at the ATA show. Also, some tips for finding shed whitetail antlers. Then Nick Green of MUCC checks in. In hour number 3, one of the young bucks in the outdoors, Kyle Green of the Greenway Outdoors TV show. And we wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. That's all coming up this week right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold. WCBY, 1240 AM, 100.7 FM. You can hear us in Ludington on News 97.98, 98.7 WLDN. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Marquette on WDMJ 1320 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Matt Smith Outdoors Realtor. Matt, good guy, longtime friend of mine. He's an expert at finding recreational properties and vacation homes, and he can help your family turn a dream into a reality. Learn more online at Matt Smith Outdoors. He's on Facebook and Instagram. And by the way, if you're looking for a new home as your primary residence, Matt can help you out there as well. Again, that's Matt Smith Outdoors on Facebook and on Instagram. While you are online, please check out my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I was going to send you over to another website, but I'm going to wait here right now because I want to turn my attention to our first guest of this week's show. Another good friend of mine for a very long time. His name is Dave Rose. He is an outdoor writer and a fishing guide, and he joins us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. David, welcome back. How are you?
I'm good. I'm cold.
Aren't we all right now? Man. So I was going to send people to a website. What's the best place to find you online, Dave?
Wildfishing.com, but right now I am redoing that. And so if you go to wildfishing.com, it's going to be a big blank screen at the moment.
That's what I found. That's why I was hesitant to give it out.
Nope, that's fine. It will be coming soon. I just been...
You've been busy.
I'm kind of changing lots here a little bit. I'm still an outdoor writer, photographer. I'm getting out of guiding a little bit.
Oh, really?
And, it's a lot of work for very little money.
Yeah. I can see that.
It really is. Yeah. And it's just one of those things. So getting out of guiding, but, I have my, I'm fully licensed still and all that. If somebody still wants to go, it says, man, Dave, I need to go with Dave. I still can do that. But I've been helping out on this last summer. I was first mate on a charter boat, and I loved it.
Really?
The boat was already launched, and I was on the water every day from the middle of May till the last day of September, except for 8 mornings. So I was on the water every day. It's wonderful. The boat's there. I get on. The captain's wonderful, Captain John Van Dusen of the Real Fun Fishing Charters on West Grand Traverse Bay, and within 5 minutes out of being in the river, and I'm eating my bologna sandwich and drinking my coffee and setting rods and, just doing what I do, talk,
I was not aware of that. That sounds like a perfect gig for you, but it also explains why when I made my invitations to come down and fish Saginaw Bay on the Angler Quest, you were always too busy. Well, now I get it.
Yeah, those last minute things. I mean, yeah, I had a wonderful summer. Almost every day on the waters of West Grand Traverse Bay.
Oh, man.
How perfect is that?
That is perfect. And you're also involved in PR and promotion. I think you were involved in the Ultimate Fishing Show Detroit last weekend. How did that go? I wanted to come down, but we had some sickness in the family, and we had some bad weather. So I stayed away, and I suspect others did it as well. How did it turn out?
It was actually very well attended.
Good.
I think people were ready for winter, and there were moments like, okay, Saturday morning, everyone was shoveling their driveway, so attendance was low Saturday morning, but Saturday afternoon, everybody got out. Thursday, the opening day, was a banner because people saw what was coming, and, they got out before the weather. And so it was very good. It wasn't record attendance, but it was very well attended, and there were a lot of booths. It's really good to see these shows prospering and people coming and checking out fishing stuff and hunting stuff or whatever. It's a very good thing.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. The next show coming up is Outdoor Rama. What are the dates on that, Dave? Do you know offhand?
It like the 24th or something like that. It's like that, not the very end of February. If you go to showspan.com, there's a list of all the shows. You can click on it and you get the exact dates. I apologize for not.
No, that's fine. And I shouldn't have hit you with that cold like that. But we got a little breathing room now before the next show. A little breathing room to get out. Maybe on the ice the way the weather's looking right now.
So interestingly enough, I did a little circle tour of Traverse City area where I'm at here. Monday, a lot of our lakes were still wide open. So I went around yesterday, and they're froze. So first ice is coming, and that's a wonderful thing. I don't know how many people I've talked to. They're just so excited that the ice is starting to form finally. And we've had first ice probably 5 times this year. I mean, literally, some of the smaller lakes are frozen. They open. They're frozen.
Yeah.
It's just, but first ice is a wonderful thing.
I'm not an ice fisherman. I obviously have ice fished, but it's not high on my list. But some of my friends who are hardcore ice fishermen, I mean, they're like rabid. They're like me on Saginaw Bay in the summertime. It's a big deal to a lot of people.
Well, it's a big deal to a lot of people, especially folks that don't maybe have a boat or whatever. They are able to explore a lake and catch fish. Instead of from shore, you can. The lake is it's open for you. You can go on a lake and catch fish. Yeah.
And that's on the inland lakes. My buddies who are fishing or try to fish Saginaw Bay in the wintertime, which is an iffy proposition lately, they've got more money wrapped up in their rigs and equipment and gear than a lot of people have in their summertime rigs.
Oh, they do. And I'll tell you what, Saginaw Bay, love it. I fished it 100 times, whatever. It's very rough on your equipment too. I mean, you have to have everything in kind of like perfect setup, a quad or a snowmobile. You get out there, you got to have everything kind of packed just right because you're going to go over humps and bumps and cracks and this and that, and it can ruin equipment. Saginaw Bay will age your equipment 10 years if you're not careful.
Well, that's why I like the concept of walking out on an inland lake. As you say, it doesn't cost a lot. It gets you into areas that maybe this is the only time of year you can fish. And first ice, people tell me first ice is really a good time to be out there. Why is that, Dave?
So first ice. So a lot of it has to do with, if you're a biologist or, into science or anything like that, that fish, breathe through the water with their gills and everything. So, we've had open water. There's wave action. It's creating oxygenation. The ice is open, or the water's open still. There's still some green weeds creating oxygen. And what happens later in the year is all of a sudden those weeds die. There hasn't been, so oxygen levels go down. And so the fish, the activity of the fish goes down too. So first ice is one of those times you go out there, the fish are still very active. And that's I think that's what's very good about First Ice is, these fish are hungry. They want to eat something. And yeah, there's still plenty of breathing room, we'll just say.
So where do we find them this year? Do we go back to the same spots we fished in the summer?
Actually, maybe the same spots you fished in the fall, because and later in the year when the ice has been on for a while, you go back to those summer haunts. But in the fall, a lot of fish go shallow because the green weeds are still there. There's still some little shrimp and all that kind of stuff where they can eat. So we're gonna fish those same places we may fish in the fall, weed edges, all that kind of stuff in shallower water.
Panfish, walleye, pike. Are we talking a little bit of everything here?
We're talking a little bit of everything. I mean, even trout. Excuse me. Really, those shallow water haunts that you've last fished in the fall are going to be perfect for First Ice.
What kind of gear? What kind of equipment?
Oh my goodness! Obviously, if you're panfish fishing, perch, bluegills, whatever, crappies, your ultralight gear, your 2-pound test, your ultralight little rod and reel, a tiny jig with maybe a waxworm or a mousey or something on the end just for some flavor and whatnot. Walleye, again, you're in the shallows, you get on those weed edges, maybe something a little larger because they're still looking for a minnow. I mean, trust me, walleye eat tiny little things too, but yeah, we might beef up our jigs a little bit and put a minnow on there versus just a waxworm or something like that. Pike, same kind of thing. Those pike are, those other small panfish are in the weed or on the edge of the weed. The pikes are going to go in there too. So maybe a tip up with a big shiner or whatever on there. So that's the kind of stuff you're looking for, is the last place you might have fished in the fall, the first place you fish during First Ice.
We talk about pike. It makes me think of this Michigan wintertime tradition of pike spearing. That's a pretty cool thing because I look at it as reaching back into my childhood. People have been doing that for generations here. It's pretty cool.
Oh, it's very cool. And, people, you get on social media, blah, blah, blah. Oh, my God, the fish don't have a chance. You're going to spear them, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you what. I have been pike spearing, probably 50 times in my life. I've still never speared a pike. It is not easy. It is not easy. A muskie, a pike, or whatever. I've been to the sturgeon deal up in, Black Lake. It is throwing a spear, getting it perfect, is not an easy task. And how I've got my pike while I'm pike spearing is I have tip-ups out around, and we catch one on a tip-up versus spearing.
Ah, so you're covering all your bases.
Yeah, you're covering all the bases. You got a couple tip-ups out there. You got your spear, whatever. We see pike come in, blah, blah. It's just not the perfect angle or you toss the spear and you miss. I mean, it's as simple as that. Spearing is not easy.
But it's fun and it's entertaining because you're sitting there in a dark house, a dark shack. You're looking through this rectangle that you've cut in the ice, and you're watching this underwater world go by in real time. It's fascinating, I think.
Oh, it's very fascinating. You'll see bluegills and perch and, bass or whatever swimming through. I mean, you learn a lot. It's like, you're a biologist looking at the underwater world, but you're above the ice looking down, and it's a giant aquarium. It's really cool. You can learn a lot about fish behavior by spearing.
Hang tight,
even
Dave.
though you're not spearing.
We're talking with Dave Rose. Dave, can we say wildfishing.com? That's the website to keep an eye on.
Keep an eye on wildfishing.com.
Wildfishing.com. Dave, an outdoor writer. He used to also be a fishing guide. He said he's moving away from that a little bit, but he's an interesting guy. And this whole concept of him working a charter boat as a first mate. If I booked a trip, I would want to have Dave Rose at the back of that boat because you could talk to him for hours. He would never run out of stories. I think that's a really cool gig. Wildfishing.com is the website, wildfishing.com. We'll take a break. More with Dave Rose after that break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Alpena on WZTK 105.7 FM. You can hear us in Battle Creek on WBCK 95.3 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Newberry, WNBY 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by VersaSkins. Just change your skin for the season you're in. Michigan-based, family-owned VersaSkins. You know I love that. Company owner Paul Perone has come up with a great concept. Why would you buy multiple sets of hunting clothes when you can buy one good quality set that is warm, weather-resistant, water-resistant, and then snap on and zip on an outer shell of a different camo pattern in less than a couple of minutes for sure, maybe a minute, maybe less than a minute. Go from blaze orange to snow camo to upland, whatever. Check out the website versaskins.com. That's versaskins.com to see what I mean. And if you need big sizes, 4, 5, 6X, VersaSkins is your source. Again, the website versaskins.com. That's versaskins.com. Keep an eye out for this website as well. Wildfishing.com. It's kind of in transition. It's under construction right now. Wildfishing.com is the long-time website and soon newly revamped or updated website for Dave Rose. Dave Rose is an interesting guy. He's an outdoor writer. He is a fishing guide, but kind of getting out of that venue. He's a promoter. He works very closely with the folks at Showspan. And he's also, I just found out, spent all last summer as a first mate on a charter boat out of Traverse Bay. Dave Rose, what have you not done, my friend?
Oh, that's a good question. I have not been a millionaire. How's that?
There's still time.
Not in this industry. This is an industry of love, not money.
Then obviously you love it.
I do love it. I've thought 100 times about getting out, and man, I'll just go be a bag boy at a grocery store or something, and I love the outdoors. I love sharing the outdoors with other people. So, the guiding thing worked out well. I got to share, but I still share by writing. I still share by talking with you and all your listeners.
I don't know. It's like every industry. There are people who have chosen to make a living in the outdoors who are rich, who are millionaires. And, we know their names. They're big names. They're famous. What was it about those people that set them apart from the rest of us in the outdoor communication business? What did they do that maybe we didn't?
Their tenacity. There's a lot of fishing pros that did tournaments. A fishing tournament, there's only one winner. Second place is first place loser. You have to be someone that is just wins tournaments. You have to be a promoter. You have to promote yourself. And that's something I don't do. I don't promote David Rose. I promote you or anybody or I promote those very professionals when I write. And that's fine. I don't need to be in the limelight. I just want to go fishing. I just want to go hunting. That's what I want to do. And I want to make a living, yeah, sure. It's a tax write-off. I'm going hunting. Oh, I'm going to get some pictures. I get the mileage and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm,
that's good enough for me. I'm creeping up on the 60-year mark here for age, and I just want to have fun. I want to have fun in the outdoors, and I'm sure that's what your listeners want to do.
This whole concept of self-promotion is interesting, though, because early on, I was not comfortable with that at all. I grew up in a household where you don't blow your own horn, right? You don't talk about what you've done. You don't talk about how good you are, because young Mike Avery, if you are good at something, people will notice it. And it's better to have them come around to that conclusion without you telling them how good they are. In today's world, Dave, of social media and stuff, and I've I struggled with this for years, but I'm more comfortable with self-promotion these days. But it's something you have to do. If you don't blow your own horn, nobody else is going to do it.
Nobody else is going to do it unless you're really that good. You know, the people I write about, you know, the hunters, the anglers, I mean, these are really good at, they really good at what they do.
Yeah,
I mean, and so, you know, I can promote them. But, you know, sometimes in this industry, the harder you try to promote yourself, the worse you're going to do, because people know you're blowing your own horn or whatever. You just need to be good at what you do. I mean, truly good. Contact outdoor writers, contact TV shows, contact radio shows, and say, hey, you know, I got something to say. And that is what's going to help someone get, you know, the fame, I guess. I hate to say fame, but,
yeah,
you know, that notoriety they deserve.
Fame is so fleeting, right? I mean, and we don't have time to get into this right now, but the people that you and I know that we have respect for that have been around for a long time, that's the goal. You don't want this, okay, I won this tournament. You want this, okay, I'm known as a winning tournament angler. But that's a conversation, Dave Rose, for a future get-together. Yeah. Always appreciate your time. And I would encourage people, what's the name of the charter again that you work with?
Real Fun Fishing Charters out of West Grand Traverse Bay in Traverse City. So just look up Real Fun Fishing Charters, and there you go.
Sounds like a real fun day on the water with Dave Rose. David, always a pleasure. We'll talk again.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Wildfishing.com is the website to keep an eye on, wildfishing.com. We'll take a break. When we come back, Bill Pyles of Ohio Bowhunting Outfitters on an outing we're having the third week in October in that state of Ohio. Listen, football team, no. Hunting, yes. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Flint on Sports Extra 1330 WTRX. You can hear us in Port Huron on WPHM 1380 AM, and you can hear us north of the bridge in the Sioux on News Talk 1400 WKNW. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by what? Brought to you by this. That's the sound of my Rapid River knife opening. You know I love Rapid River knives. Check out their website, rapidriverknifeworks.us, or better yet, go to the showroom on US 2, just east of Rapid River. You'll see what I mean. Handmade pieces of art guaranteed for a lifetime, rapidriverknifeworks.us. I was saying earlier that tickets are now on sale for our big Trinity Monitor Wild Game Dinner and Auction. That's Saturday, March 2nd. One of the prizes last year was a hunting trip with Bill Pyles of Ohio Bowhunting Outfitters. My grandson, Trent, was the recipient of that. Actually, my son, James, and daughter-in-law, Jess, were the high bidders. They got that trip for Trent. He went down with us last year, and I'm telling you what, that kid was so patient. He sat on this stand for a week straight because a big buck had been coming in there. On the last day of the hunt, just like a storybook, Trent was sitting there, and that big buck came in. Trent put an arrow in that guy, and he took the big, beautiful buck. And I'm telling you, that's the type of experience you can have if you do an out-of-state hunt. Every once in a while. I love hunting in Michigan, but I also love going down to Ohio and hunting with Bill Pyles of Ohio Bowhunting Outfitters. It's something I did for the TV show. It's something for the last few years we've done just for fun. And we're going to do it again this year, October 21st through the 25th. We've moved it back a week to get closer to the rut. And Bill Pyles, I am so excited about this year. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
Good. You feeling better? You were under the weather last week.
Yes, sir. Just a tad.
I was horizontal the whole week, but I'm upright now.
Everything's good. I'm still above dirt, so that's a plus.
Bill, I am so excited to get together with some of our friends and listeners to come back down this year. You've moved the hunt back a week. That is pretty exciting.
Yes, sir. I mean, it's been okay when you guys come in. I mean, we're after that first full moon in October, so yeah, we moved it back a week, and it should be very productive.
Tell me about your operation. You're a full-time guide, family operation. You've been doing this forever.
Yes. This will be 26 years this year. Unbelievable. I can't believe it. Yeah, but it's myself, my wife, my son, and my daughter. My daughter takes care of the website, Facebook, and stuff like that. But myself, my son, and my wife, we'd run this full time. So you'll be dealing with family and no outside influence. It's just us. And we're a pretty small operation. We're not big by any means.
And you're right there in the heart of some beautiful country.
Yeah, we're right in the corner of the big four counties. That's Licking, Knox, Muskingum, and Coshocton. And 90% of our farms right now are Licking County, which is the county is unbelievable. I don't know what it is, but I think it's got something to do with being 100% private. But it's just a great county right now. The whole state is great, but Licking County is pretty special.
A lot of your hunters throughout your season come from Michigan, don't they?
Yeah, I'd say at least 30% of our hunters come from Michigan. Yeah, I mean, it's these guys come down here, and they're not used to seeing these type of deer and these big deer. And I just tell guys, be patient. Don't shoot the first thing that shows up. Be patient, and you're usually rewarded.
And your line is, if you have to question whether that deer is big enough, it's not. If he comes in and you go, holy cow, then he's a shooter.
Yes, sir. Stand up and just give him one. Yeah, if you gotta put it on that meter and be like, well, if you gotta think about it, leave it alone.
This is a fair chase hunt. This is not behind a fence. There's no guarantees here.
No, it's a 100% fair chase. I mean, I feel like we put in plenty of work. We've got more than enough stands up. I think we set 151, 52 last year. Probably the same this year. We picked up a couple new farms, so we're working on a couple other ones. Yeah, but everything's done. I mean, all you have to do is hunt, and that's it.
What do we get for the money, Bill? What are you giving us?
We do meals and lodging is included in the price of the hunt. And then we take care of all the details. Like I said, all our hunters do is hunt. I mean, you guys come here to hunt. You don't come here to work and set stands, and because 5 days is really not that long. So we take care of everything. Yeah, of course we don't sit with you when you're in the timber, but yeah, but everything's done.
Yeah. It's not like sitting in a box blind with a guide going, "There's your buck." No, it's not that at all. You do the work. You send us out to where you want us to hunt. This year's hunt. October 21st through the 25th. We would come in Sunday the 20th, start the hunt Monday. That should be a good, it should be good this year, Bill. You've got room for, I don't know, maybe a dozen people. We've got room. So if people want to get in touch with you, Bill Pyles at Ohio Bowhunting Outfitters, go to the website, ohiobowhuntingoutfitters.com. Or they can reach out to you on Facebook, or they can reach out to me, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. We're just starting to put this together now, Bill, and I'm real excited about it, and I appreciate you making this opportunity available to us once again.
Yes, sir. And when they do call, just make sure that they mention that they're coming with your group, so we've got everybody in the same boat.
Perfect. Bill Pyles at Ohio Bowhunting Outfitters, ohiobowhuntingoutfitters.com. Bill, you and I will be talking a lot about this. I'm looking forward to it. Appreciate it, buddy.
Thank you, sir. Have a great day.
You as well. Bill Pyles of ohiobowhuntingoutfitters.com. If you are looking for an out-of-state hunt, if you've never done it before, if you want to feel kind of confident going down there with some Michigan people, some people who have been down there several times, including myself, ohiobowhuntingoutfitters.com, or reach out to me, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. We will make it happen. We'll take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back in hour number 2, we're going to talk a little...
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery. Thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan, and so glad to have you along with us. Have you warmed up yet? Man, it's been cold. Bitter cold, freezing cold, a lot of snow. course, my wife Denise said, she said, you jinxed yourself because you kept talking about, where's winter? Where's winter? Well, here it is now. Although, as we look at the forecast for next week, it's supposed to warm up. It'll feel pretty good. Anyway, this is the Outdoor Magazine radio show, and I do believe the best way to listen to the content of this program, if you can, is on your local radio station. If your local AM or FM station doesn't carry all 3 hours of the show, or if you live in some part of our state not covered by the broadcast signal, it is nice to know that there's a podcast version of the show available. Where do you hear the podcast? You can hear it anywhere. I mean, anywhere that you can hear a podcast, you can hear the podcast version of the Outdoor Magazine radio show, including my website and my Facebook page, and even on YouTube. I know it's an audio show. It's sound. It's not video, and we put it on YouTube, and people listen to it every week. I do like podcasting. I sometimes get a little uppity, to use an old term, about podcasting because this radio show is often referred to as a podcast these days, and it's not. But podcasting is a ubiquitous term. When people hear sound these days, when they hear audio, they think they're listening to a podcast, regardless of what the source of the sound is. So I'm just going to have to just wrap my brain around that and just deal with it. But I do like podcasts, though. In addition to the podcast version of this radio show, I also produce monthly podcasts for Offshore Tackle, Angler Quest Boats, and Primal Outdoors as well. So keep an ear out for those. You can go to the various websites to pick up on those. If you've been with me at all, that I like to work with, I like to deal with, I like to talk about. When it's business, when it's the outdoor business, I like to deal with Michigan-based, family-owned companies whenever possible. And I'm blessed that here in our state we have a lot of Michigan-based, family-owned companies because this is an outdoor hotspot. Hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping are part of who we are. It's part of our makeup here. As a result, a lot of companies are formed around that. Rec Broadheads, R-E-K, Rec Broadheads, is a Michigan-based, archery-based company. Matt Tagget is one of the owners of the company. He's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Matt, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Hey, Mike. How's it going?
Good. Listen, it was real nice to finally get to spend some time with you in person, with you and your dad at our Wednesday Night Live at the Lumberjack Restaurant back in December.
That was a great event. Yeah, we had an awesome turnout that night, and I was really glad to be invited to be a part of that.
Well, we're going to do another one in March, and you have an invitation there, and I'll give you the details off air as we get closer.
Excellent.
There was also a little bit of a big event in your company life here last week, the ATA, the Archery Trade Association show. And I knew that you guys, you were busy. You unveiled some new products. What's coming out, Matt?
We did, yes. We were down in St. Louis last week for the Archery Trade show, and we unveiled a new expandable broadhead, a 2 1/4 inch cut rear deploy, 2-blade expandable broadhead. And man, it was quite the buzz around the show floor. I'll tell you that.
2 inches?
Yes, 2 1/4. That's
2 1/4.
It takes after our XP broadhead, which we launched a few years ago, which was inch 850, so a little over 1 3/4 inches. People really liked that head, but they wanted to see something bigger. So we went to the drawing board and we come up with a new set of blades for that expandable, and 2 1/4 inch. And being a rear deploy, we see the slap cut on entry, and we're seeing entry wounds nearing 3 inches on that.
So this is a different design than the original expandable.
This is very, very similar design.
Similar,
actually, it's
okay.
the same ferrule, the same tip. Yep,
Okay,
different
okay.
blades.
Okay.
Yep.
How do you field test something like this? How long has this been out there in the works?
So we've got about a year of testing into this one here. And we had to make a few revisions to the blades. We weren't seeing the strength out of the blades that we wanted because, you get a blade that's that large, it takes quite a bit of support there to keep it all together. So we had a few different revisions on the blades, but we tested it throughout the whole fall this year. We killed quite a few different animals with it, had a handful of field testers using it, and the results are just astonishing. It's that is a devastating head.
Do you see this for everything from turkeys to whitetails to bear and elk? I mean, everything is it cover across the board?
Yeah, I think, with the right setup, once you get into a head that's this large, you really have to, shoot a little heavier poundage and stuff like that. And I think it's really going to be a whitetail hunter special along with, turkeys and stuff. And I think that's where, maybe the other expandable or XP with the smaller cut is probably going to take the place of the bigger game and the lower poundage.
What about crossbows?
Yep, crossbow approved. We all of our heads across the board are crossbow approved, and we typically rate those to 450 feet per second.
Of course, the key is with a head this big, with any expandable, is you've got to make sure those blades do not deploy until they hit something. If you shot and the recoil of the shot made those blades come out, that thing's going to fly all over the place, right?
Yeah, that's just it. And we have a pretty unique system there. You've seen that spring retention collar, and we've kind of our first couple of years we designed it, and it's a very unique system, but it wasn't quite the easiest to install. So we went back to the drawing board and reinvented that, made it for easier installation. But it's a system that takes 3.8 pounds of force to deploy the blades, but it doesn't accidentally deploy because it actually has to hit something on impact to break those tabs free. And that's where it's so unique to where you can use it for compounds and crossbows.
So what are you seeing from your perspective, Matt? Are fixed blades or are expandables? What's the most popular these days?
There is definitely an upward trend in the fixed head category. I think archery kind of started that way, and then as expandables gained popularity, they kind of took over the market, and then people were seeing failures out of it, certain expandables, and that's kind of where we fell in, where we wanted to redesign the expandable. But the fixed broadhead game is still very strong and it's coming back. But at the end of the day, we sell more expandables than any.
How did REC come about? REC Broadheads.
Well, my dad and I, we love to bow hunt. We travel the country bow hunting every year. We living here in Michigan, we have so many bow hunting opportunities. So we love to bow hunt. We've shot every broadhead under the sun, and we've tried a lot of really good broadheads, and we've tried a lot that aren't so good. And we thought that we could put our own spin on something, design something that would not fail, and something we could trust, and we could make it right here in Michigan. And that's exactly what we've done.
That whole process, though, of coming up with a new design, manufacturing it, and then the infrastructure of the business around it, that's got to be daunting in some ways.
Oh, it's certainly a lot. And, we get asked often why did we choose broadheads, just because it's such a saturated market. But, it is definitely saturated, but I also feel there's always room for a quality product. There's always room for something new and innovative and better. And, it's been a fun process.
Is REC just broadheads? Is that all we're going to see from you guys? Or might there be REC releases, REC sights, REC bows? I'm just thinking out loud here.
Yeah, so our goal right now is to build out the broadhead lineup. We want to offer a head for everybody. We want to offer some new and innovative broadheads down the road, some stuff that's never been done. But I would not be surprised to see us dive into some other markets.
So how far down the road are you looking, Matt? I mean, are you guys going to be out there in the turkey woods this spring shooting heads that we might see 2 years down the road?
Our quivers certainly have some heads that you may or may not see down the road. We're always designing, always prototyping. Yeah, but that's the fun part of it.
And how do you test a broadhead other than shooting a critter with it? I mean, do you put them in a machine? Do you shoot them through plywood? What's the process of determining how tough a head is?
Yeah, so that's the neat part about it. Obviously, there's always your engineering side of things where they're putting this on the computer and looking for different strengths and where we can add support and stuff like that. But the guts of it is shooting these things through ballistic gel, shooting them through plywood, through steel, into cement blocks. Trying to destroy them, shooting them on quartering angles. There's a lot of different tests like that. But realistically, at the end of the day, I feel there is no better test than on a live animal. We go through all those different medium tests. And then come hunting season, we have a head that we're confident in that we can shoot animals, and that's when we really do the testing that actually matters, I feel.
You got to have confidence in your broadheads. There's no doubt about that. How many different models do you guys have right now?
So we currently have 4 models and then a practice head as well, so 5 different heads available.
Hang tight, Matt. We got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. We're talking with Matt Tagget of REC Broadheads, Michigan-based, family-owned REC Broadheads. The website, recbroadheads.com, recbroadheads.com, R-E-K, recbroadheads.com. This is a company that people first brought to my attention here a few years ago. They said, man, you got to check out this company out of Frankenmuth. These guys are really hot. And I did check them out. They make some great products. And very impressed. But we got to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about bow hunting, a little bit more about heads, a little bit more about rec broadheads. But I also want to talk with Matt about shedding. No, he's not losing his hair. Shedding, the search for shed whitetail antlers. It's getting to be that time of year. My son James said 3 weeks ago he saw a couple of bucks that had already dropped. It is such a wonderful family wintertime activity. Take the kids out, especially when they're young, looking for sheds. You make a game out of it, make an adventure out of it. We used to do that when the kids were little, and it was just a riot. And Matt is very accomplished shed hunter as well as a whitetail hunter. So more of our conversation with Matt Tagget of Rec Broadheads coming up after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Carroll on two stations, WKYO 1360 AM and WIDL 92.1 FM. You can hear us in Holland on WHTC 1450 AM 99.7 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Iron Mountain on WMIQ 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination. Walleye Central. The big question right now, though, is, well, as we are recording the show right now, no, you can't get a boat into Linwood Beach. But I also don't think, as of right now, as we are recording the show, you can get out of the water ice fishing either. Kind of in this weird spot right now. Stay in contact with the folks at Linwood Beach. The website, linwoodbeachmarina.com, linwoodbeachmarina.com for the latest ice conditions, the latest fishing conditions. Also, as we start to look forward to spring and it's time to get the boats back out, Linwood Beach can make sure you are ready to rock. They can have your boat ready for the springtime fishing season. Great people, great facilities, great location. Can't say enough about Linwood Beach Marina, linwoodbeachmarina.com. Another great company that I'm really proud of what they're doing here. And I don't even have an association with Rec Broadheads, but I use their broadheads. I know the Tagget family behind them. And Matt, I got to be honest, just looking at it from the outside, I'm really proud of what you guys have been able to accomplish. You came out of nowhere and really made a name for yourself in the bow hunting world.
Well, hey, we really appreciate that. You know, we're just trying to do things, I guess the good old fashioned way. We're building this thing from the ground up, and you know, kind of looking to build products that we first and foremost believe in as bow hunters, and you know, see some of the improvements that we would like to see in a product, and just doing it the good old fashioned way.
In some ways, it's like the American dream. You see a need for a product, and you come out and design it and build it.
Yeah, that's kind of what we're doing, you know, and it's the product's really starting to speak for itself. You know, the marketing and all that stuff helps, of course, but I think that's the biggest thing is people, the word of mouth. People are starting to find out about us, and it's getting out there, and we're really having a lot of fun with it.
All right, so you mentioned word of mouth. What is more important, Matt? Is it word of mouth, or is it getting your broadheads in the hands of some high-profile, big-name outdoor bow hunter or TV bow hunters? What's the strategy you guys are choosing?
Well, I sure think there's a good mix of both there. You know, you need to spend your dollars in marketing because, you know, that's one sure way to get your name out there. But you also have a good product that backs it up. You know, if, you know, you put this product out there in the eyes of everybody and the product isn't any good, you know, you're going to get a bad name pretty quickly. So we're, you know, I guess we started off with word of mouth, and, you know, as we dive into some more advertising options, I guess the goal is to let the world know about it. But, you know, it takes time being a young company, and we just want to make sure our product is perfect, you know, and I feel we perfected it. And now that we have a solid lineup, we can work on, you know, kind of spreading the word throughout.
Gotcha. Perfect. All right, Matt, listen, let's change direction here a little bit. Let's talk about shedding, the search for shed whitetail antlers. That's something that you are really involved in from this time of year for the next couple of months, aren't you?
Yeah, it's getting to be that time, and man, I really enjoy it. The last couple of years, I haven't gotten out as much as I used to, but man, it's always fun walking up on a big old shed antler.
So what is the appeal? Is it the hunt? Is it the search? Is it postseason scouting? Is it staying in touch with a local whitetail herd? I mean, why do it?
I definitely think it's a little bit of scouting. It's nice to get out that time of year and look at the woods after season and see everything. But then also, it's fun to get out and just find antlers in general, even if it's a property you can't necessarily hunt, just to find those antlers, to have that collection. And it's also, really cool if you're able to, if it's a property you can hunt, to find shed antlers off a deer that you might chase this upcoming year.
Where do you find them? Where do you start?
Well, that's the tricky question. They could be just about anywhere. I found that years that the winters are really hard. They're generally easier to find because it groups the deer up a little more. The deer tend to concentrate more on a food source, and if you can find those areas, find where the deer spend their winter, and then look there in the spring or once they start dropping. The years that are quite mild and the deer don't really group up and they're kind of scattered, just about anywhere, they're harder to find, I found. Typically, food in the winter is king. So if you can find where they're feeding and find where they're bedding and, kind of search those areas and everything in between, bed to food, that's where you're going to find the most of your sheds.
And what's the trick of actually seeing them? I feel like in some ways it's similar to mushroom hunting in that, some people, the minute they walk out in the woods, boom, they can see it. Others, you can stare right at it and not know it's there. What are the subtleties? What are the nuances of seeing these things as they're laying out there in the probably snow-covered woods?
Yeah, it can be tricky. And I feel like I'm one of those guys that could walk by one 3 times and not pick it out. But, I think once you spot one and it just kind of clicks with your eyes what you're actually looking for, it gets easier from there. I've learned that different the way the sun is shining on different days. If it's shining real bright, it's harder to see them, because everything's kind of bright in the woods. But if it's a little bit of a cloudier day, they might pop a little easier to you. It's tricky. Obviously, the bigger they are, the easier they are to find as well. But many times you'd be surprised how wound up in the grass they get too. They might drop, and within a month they're kind of have settled their way into the grass as it's blowing around. So you might only see a few tines sticking up. It can be really tricky.
You mentioned, the bigger they are, the easier they are to find. Wouldn't it be cool, and maybe you've done this, wouldn't it be cool to, say, go up to the Pigeon River or something and look for elk sheds?
That's on my list. I've always said I would love to get up there because I know there's people do it, and people find them. I guess I wouldn't know where to begin up there. That's the other trick, is just covering a lot of ground.
What about like getting down at ground level, getting down on your knees? I mean, again, I'm just trying to figure this out. The trick to it. When we took the kids out and they were little, they were close to the ground and they could see them, I swear, better than I could, looking at it from 6 feet in the air.
Yeah, especially when you're searching those bedding areas and you can get down to the thick stuff. I think if you can follow kind of the runways off the food back, the deer trails back to where they're bedding, just follow those trails back and hit each one of them, and where they get into the thick stuff, they're brushing their antlers against stuff, and they could be knocking it off. And some of the thick areas these deer get into, you can hardly fit into as a human. So it's always good to get on your hands and knees and crawl through some of these thick spots, because as they're going through, I haven't personally found any hanging in tree branches, but every now and again I get a picture from a friend that finds one, hanging 4 foot off the ground.
Geez.
So don't count that out either.
That's one place I'd never think to look, is off the ground. That's for sure.
Yeah.
What about the Holy Grail, the matched set? Have you ever found one of those?
I have found, I think, 3 match sets in my day.
Wow.
And that is kind of the coolest thing ever. You can take that buck back, and some people display them together on the wall or whatnot. But it's that's kind of, like you said, that's the Holy Grail of shed hunting, is to be able to find a match set. And then, man, if you can go in the next year and kill that deer, that's as good as it gets.
Yeah, that's epic. On those cases where you found the match sets, how far apart were the two sides?
So that's what I'm trying to recall right now. You hear of guys finding them right next to each other. You hear that they drop one and there's another one normally within 10 or 20 feet. But I would say on the two map sets for sure, I know that they were within probably 50 to 100 yards of each other. So it seems like whatever triggers that antler to drop, they tend to happen pretty quickly at the same time. But then again, if you run trail cameras, you also see times where a buck will come in and he's only got one side, and he clings to that for multiple days. So it really makes you wonder what actually triggers that and how quickly they drop from one another. And I mean, they could be laying right next to each other, or they could be a half a mile away.
That's interesting, too. You bring up trail cameras. That's a great idea, great suggestion, because a lot of us still have those cameras out. They've still got some battery life in them. Just keep an eye on them, and you'll know when the bucks on your property are starting to shed. Certainly,
that definitely makes it easier just to know, when they're dropping and when to get out and start looking for them, and what you have to look for. I've still got a camera rolling right now. I've got about a 2-acre cornfield planted for the deer, and I went through and brush hogged it back in November. So there's still a handful of corn cobs laying out there for them, so they're kind of picking through it and whatnot. But to be able to run those cameras and say, okay, well, there's a handful of bucks hitting this. Maybe once they start dropping, we can get out and get looking.
So my son James was out hunting here during the late season in December, and he saw 2 bucks that had already dropped then. I thought that was a little bit early, but what's your experience on when they drop, and how late in the year have you seen bucks with racks on them still?
It's really crazy because I've seen deer drop extremely early. I've seen deer drop in December, and I've seen deer running around with antlers on them even into April. And I think a lot of that has to do with the weather. I'm not a biologist by any means, but it just seems like the harder the year, the more stressed the deer is, they would drop their antlers sooner. I don't know if there's any facts behind that, but I've seen a good mix. I think, I would guess that the majority of deer drop in February. March seems to be a very popular time to get out in the woods and look for them. But, one thing I've learned, if you're shed hunting public areas, you want to be one of the first guys out there when they are dropping. Otherwise, they could get picked over. So it doesn't hurt to go through an area and check it, kind of middle of winter, and then go back in the spring, check it again.
And what do you do with the sheds when you find them, Matt?
Oh, I've just got a big old pile of them. I like to pull them out every now and again and kind of just look at them. I label where they're from, when I found it, and it's just kind of neat to sit there and look at, honestly.
Oh, yeah, I just think it's a lot of fun. It's a great wintertime activity. It's a great way to get out there. And, again, I love taking kids out there to do it because it becomes an adventure for them. Matt Tagget, always a pleasure. Congrats on the success so far of Rec, but I know there's a lot more coming from you guys, so keep it up.
Thanks so much, Mike. There's certainly a lot more coming. We're hard at it.
I know you are. All right, Matt, let's stay in touch. I can't wait to see what you've got.
Thanks, Mike.
Matt Tagget of Rec Broadheads, Michigan-based, family-owned Rec Broadheads, recbroadheads.com, REK recbroadheads.com. We're coming up on a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, got to check in with Nick Green of MUCC. I have not talked with Nick. Oh, it's been several weeks now. I like to check in with the folks at MUCC every couple of weeks, but Nick was out hunting. He was off sick, so it's been a while. I want to see what's on his mind. And then coming up at the end of the hour, this week's Ask Avery segment, a follow-up of a concept that was brought up last week that I've had a lot of questions about, and that's the concept of increasing the number of rods for trolling anglers on the Great Lakes. Details on that and more in Hour 2 of Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on 98.5 WUPS. You can hear us in Lansing on WILS 1320 AM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Escanaba on WCHT 600 AM, 93.5 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Premier Maritime Training. If you've ever wanted to be a charter captain, if you've ever wanted to get your captain's license, I think this is a great option. Captain John Littlefield taught my captain's class, and he can help you become a licensed charter captain as well. Check out the website, pmtcaptains.com, for more info. That's pmtcaptains.com. John has classes across the state. I'm sure you can find one that fits your schedule. You know this is something you've wanted to do. Good time to take advantage of it. Go to the website, pmtcaptains.com, pmtcaptains.com. I want to turn our attention now to the folks at MUCC, Michigan United Conservation Clubs. Nick Green is their CIO, their Chief Information Officer. We have not talked for a few weeks. Nick, welcome back to the show. How have you been?
I've been good, enjoying kind of the holiday season and finishing up duck season out of state in Virginia and getting back into the swing of things in 2024. So lots going on for MUCC. We're excited for a new year.
Yeah, I saw you took that trip out east. That looked like a lot of fun.
It was. It was kind of a bucket list trip to go chase black ducks and some hopefully bigger sea ducks and brant, which we didn't get to do, but we did get black ducks and lots of bufflehead and enjoyed some nicer weather. So it was a great trip.
Good. Well, and now you've got, so it sounds like somebody at the door for one thing. Now we're coming into 2024. I got to believe things are starting to ramp up there in Lansing at MUCC.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of our programs are starting to get rolling again this year. Anytime there's a new year, we always have kind of new processes we want to look at and new goals to look for. In terms of the legislature, things are going to be pretty slow for the next few months. We have kind of a deadlocked House right now with two mayoral elections in which Democrats won. And then we also have the challenge to the district lines that were drawn. So until that is all kind of decided, they can't have an election, which means there probably won't be anything very divisive moving through the legislature when you have a deadlocked House. So really this year we're kind of in a holding pattern so far right now until that's all sorted out. It's kind of giving us a lot of time to focus on the Natural Resources Commission, a lot of our rulemaking work, and then focus on policies that don't require legislative work, things that we work on every day that maybe don't require lobbying effort. So we're excited about that. We're excited about growing MUCC. And when the legislator gets rolling, you can count on us relaying that to folks and make sure they know what's going on.
You had also, I saw an email that you sent me, in fact, made a post about it too. Tracks Magazine, you're pushing that right now. What is that?
Yeah, so Tracks is our upper elementary read, and this is really a great resource for folks wanting to, kind of spread the news of conservation, wildlife, being outdoors to your kids or a kid It focuses on a different Michigan species each month throughout the school year, publishes October through May. But if you sign up, you'll get your 8 issues. You just have a pause in the summer. And it really teaches kids conservation principles. It teaches us how we interact with animals in Michigan. It teaches us kind of the careers that might go along with that species, that might work to better that species. A lot of these animals are game species. A lot of them are not. So it's important that we kind of relay that information too. We incorporate hunting, trapping, angling where we can, where it makes sense. This is really a good, useful tool for kids in classrooms. And for the next 2 weeks, we're running a promo where you get $10 off. So for $10, you could get 8 issues of Tracks Magazine for that young person in your life. That promo code is TRACKS, all caps lock 24. So TRACKS 24, and you'll get $10 off. That's 50% off. It's a $10 subscription to Tracks Magazine. You can go to mucc.org.
And you don't have to do this through the school or classroom. You can do this in your own family, right?
Yeah, this will get mailed right to your mailbox, and that's in fact what we're promoting here. We do have another kind of way to utilize Tracks or to subscribe to Tracks, and that's in classrooms. That costs $6 a head with a minimum of 15 kids in a classroom. That's something we try to do at kind of the beginning of school years. But for this, it's really focused on getting these magazines kind of mailed to kids, similar to the program we have in Michigan Outdoors, but for kids with Tracks Magazine.
And isn't there a convention coming up?
There is. So we have a convention the beginning of March. It's March 9th, that Saturday. And we will be considering a bevy of resolutions that kind of talk about hunting, fishing, everything under the sun. It's really a day for us where we kind of get together. It's good-hearted, spirited debate, and it sets the course for our work for the year ahead and years ahead. It's something we look forward to each year, and it's something coming up. So if you're an MUCC member, stay tuned to our communications, and you're certainly invited to convention.
All right, Nick, always a pleasure. Keep up the good work. We'll talk again.
Thanks, Mike.
Nick Green of MUCC, the website MUCC.org, MUCC.org. If you've thought about becoming an MUCC member, this would be a real good time to do it. The cost is so reasonable. Maybe $35 a year, but don't quote me on that. Go to MUCC.org and you can learn more about that. Strength in numbers, right? MUCC is putting a push on this year to try to increase the number of members. Why? Because the more members you have, the more clout you have. And we certainly want our hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping organizations right now to have some clout, to have some influence, to have the politicians listen to them. So it's a good time to join MUCC, MUCC.org. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, we'll wrap up the second hour with this week's Ask Avery segment. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Sandusky on WMIC. That is 660 AM, 95.3 FM. You can hear us in St. Joe on WSJM, 94.9 FM. And north of the bridge in Manistee on WTIQ, 1490 AM, 95.3 FM. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you each week by the good folks at Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoorsmen and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. The way this works is you can send me a question. Send it to me, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. The best way to get your questions to me. This week's segment, though, is kind of a follow-up on something that first came up. Well, it's a topic that has been under discussion here on the Outdoor Magazine Show for the last few years, and that's the topic of increasing the number of rods a trolling angler can use on the Great Lakes. This was officially brought forward, I'm going to say officially last week, when I had Ed Blissick of the Great Lakes Salmon Initiative on the show to talk about it. I have been pushing for this for a while. In fact, I took it to MUCC about 3 years ago, where it was shot down. And I put that purely on my shoulders because I hadn't been through the process before, so I didn't quite know how it worked. So I didn't do a very good job of presenting my argument. But that doesn't mean that I still, have supported it all along. And my thinking is, I first saw this on Saginaw Bay years ago when I was out there fishing by myself, and I was limited to 3 rods, and I had a big charter boat come by me. They had like a dozen rods in the water. And I got thinking, well, why? It's at the time I was struggling to find fish, and I thought, if I've only got three rods, 3 baits in the water, it's going to take me a lot longer to find fish and catch fish. And on that particular day, I only had like a couple hours to be on the water, and I thought, why should somebody have to be penalized on the water when you've only got a limited number, finite time to be out there, because most people do it, right? You've only got a certain amount of times you can fish. Why should there be an arbitrary number put on the amount of rods that you can run? Because the fish are protected. You've got a daily creel limit and you've got a size limit that's going to protect the fish. It doesn't matter how many rods you run to get there. So I think it should be unlimited. But the Great Lakes Salmon Initiative has come up with a proposal that what they're saying is, look, you should be able to buy an additional license. You, being an angler, a licensed angler, should be able to spend, and the number that's being thrown around right now is $26, to buy an additional license that will allow you to run 3 more rods. Personally, I think it's a great idea. And we were talking about this last week, and I had several people reach out to me with questions, valid questions and valid complaints and criticisms of this topic. One of them was the concept that this is just another money grab by the DNR to get more of our dollars. In this case, that's not true. This is not being pushed by the DNR. It wasn't proposed by the DNR. This is being proposed by anglers and angling organizations as a way to get rid of a rod restriction that to me seems arbitrary and capricious. I don't see any reason for it. Now, what I was proposing was just, it didn't have the $26 license fee involved in it. But because this actually has to go to the legislature instead of the NRC, some very smart people said, look, it's going to be more palatable to politicians if they see it as the way they can bring some money in on it. And the good news, the way this is being proposed, any money raised by this would go right back into the Great Lakes fishery. So this is not a DNR idea. The other criticism that this got a lot last week was, look, I don't... That's all. They're like, Avery, that's all fine and well, and what you guys do out in the Great Lakes with your big, beautiful trolling boats, we don't care. But look, I'm a pier fisherman. I'm a shore fisherman. I'm a river fisherman. I'm an ice fisherman. And I don't want to see somebody stake out a piece of the pier or the river bank or whatever and put up 10 rods in rod holders and be legal and take over the whole site. Very, very valid criticism. This proposal is only for trolling anglers on the Great Lakes. It doesn't even include inland anglers. Now, you might say, well, why should the inland people be punished? Why is this only for the Great Lakes people? It's because the Great Lakes, there's so much room to roam. You can get away from people. You can put a big spread out on an inland lake. It's often not the case. So valid concerns, valid criticism, but I just want to be, before this thing really starts getting steam and really starting to go here, Great Lakes trolling anglers only. The reason that the money, the $26 license, is put in there is a way to help ease it into the system. Just something to make it work. And you don't have to buy the extra, you wouldn't have to buy the extra license. If you didn't buy it, then okay, then you run your three rods. So it's a concept that I am in favor of. I will continue to support, but I appreciate you bringing up those concerns and giving me the opportunity to clarify those 2 points. And a big thank you to the folks at Security Credit Union for making each week's Ask Avery segment possible. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. When we come back, Kyle Green of the Greenway Outdoors TV and, of course, Wild Game Chef Extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar in Hour 3 of Outdoor Mag.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Primal Outdoors, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Garber Chevrolet, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. I got a little distracted here at the top of the hour. Charlie Root, who was in the studio with me, and I were starting to have a conversation, and my mind kind of went off in this direction, and I forgot, I'm in the middle of a radio show here. And the conversation was, Charlie says, Avery, do you know that next year on this exact date, it will be 20 years that you have been doing the Outdoor Magazine radio show out of the studios of WSGW? 20 years. Jeez. Which then it got me thinking, okay, well, so when did I do the actual first Outdoor Magazine radio show? This is before this way we're doing it now. 1994. 1994. Man. And so this, kind of goes back to, maybe this is why God took me off track here in this first segment when I started talking about how I got to where I am professionally. Because this kind of ties back into that. It's like things have changed so much in the world of communication and the world of outdoor communication, and how we reach people these days and the messages that we're putting out. It used to be in the early days, it was more of a hook and bullet type thing. Me and Joe went out and we did this, and here's how we did it. These days, with this new crop of outdoor communicators who are coming up, they have found so many interesting and innovative and just downright cool ways to reach an audience. And the message has morphed in some ways from me and Joe went out and did this to here's why we do this. In a world, in an environment, in society where a larger percentage of people are not participants like we are. I think Kyle Green at the Greenway Outdoors, greenwayoutdoors.com, his TV show, his podcast, his videos, his social media posts, I think he has this dialed in. And in my opinion, he is the most exciting young outdoor personality on the scene these days. And he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Kyle, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Thank you, Mike. That's a very kind introduction. I'm doing wonderful. And, man, that is such a good point, what's going on in the industry right now as far as that shift goes. And I was actually discussing this with my dad last night, and we were talking about the fact that, like, in 1960 when he was born, and before that, it's like everybody knew where their food came from. Everybody participated, whether it was farming, hunting, fishing. Everybody had a beat on what was going on. And nowadays, because that's not the case, we have had to shift from this is how we do things, because now we have to decriminalize it to people and explain to them why it's good. And this is where your food comes from, because people are so disconnected from where their food comes from in the first place.
Case in point, I just happened to be looking at your Facebook page at the top of the hour, and you're making a post about a squirrel hunt. Squirrel hunt, right? And some lady says, "Leave the animals alone. How dare you kill innocent creatures for fun?" And you guys came back and said, not for fun, but always for food. And I think that really illustrates where we're at today.
Yeah, that post, you never know which one's going to get you. And the guys and I were laughing about it because we've done all these cool hunts and fishing trips and stuff like that. But something about squirrels and bears really upset people. Those are the ones that really upset people. I don't know why.
Bears, I can tell you for a fact, I agree with that. Go on a wolf hunt sometime if you haven't. Post that and see what kind of comments you get.
Yeah, especially with that terrible reintroduction they're doing in Colorado right now. It's that's going to become a bigger hot topic soon, because you're really going to see hunters get behind that, and you're going to see the antis get really upset about it. So that's going to be a big bone of contention.
Kyle, how did you get to this point? Now, you and I talked a few months ago when you ran through this, but let's bring it up to speed for people who may not have heard that conversation. I mean, this is not you're not an overnight wonder. You've been working on this for a while.
Yeah, the team and I have been building this company for 8 years. We started out just on YouTube, and then eventually built up to like the pursuit channels and outdoor channels and stuff like that. But the entire goal of our show was always to stand out from our production quality and from our storytelling, so that we knew that our television show could make it to mainstream television like History Channel. That way we could reach new people. What was happening in the outdoor industry was a lot of people that agreed with each other were all talking to each other, but nothing was being done to bring new people into the outdoors. And the only way, in my opinion, to do it was through storytelling and production quality. And we worked tirelessly on that, and it was 7 years of just trial, tribulation, difficulty, stress, running out of money, all those different things before we finally landed our big deal on History Channel. And we actually got our ratings back, and we finished 4th overall on the network. I mean, we did really way better than I anticipated us doing, to be completely honest. We had millions of viewers. The ratings were better than everybody expected. And for that, I'm very grateful, and I'm sure a large part of it was thanks to your audience as well for tuning in and me being on your radio show.
Well, that's nice of you to say. That's very impressive what you've accomplished, to the point now where I think you've even expanded, or you're going to expand this whole franchise, this whole concept a little bit more even.
Well, yeah, at the top of this conversation, you were talking about interacting with people in different ways. And we've had to look at the industry itself and say, okay, what's the other way we can reach that younger demographic? And you can't shy away from the fact that TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube are still the way to reach that younger audience, the ones even younger than I. So we're kind of tag teaming where we're doing the History Channel show. We've been re-signed for another season. We're going to do another season of that, including a Christmas special, which I'm really excited about because it's going to be filmed in Michigan, and it's going to be about the Hunters for Hungry, the Sportsman Against Hunger, and donating venison to soup kitchens. It's going to be beautiful and really teaching people that connection there. And then we'll be doing 10 other episodes as well for History Channel. But then we were like, we still need to reach that younger audience. So we're developing this. It's called a vlog, which there's a lot of popular outdoor vloggers that are out there on YouTube right now. And we're kind of making our own way with that, with our own mold, from doing product reviews and hunting and fishing trips. But basically, we're outdoors every day, almost every day. We like to be out every day. So at least once a week, we can put together a really cool vlog to take people on our adventures with us, in addition to the History Channel show. And then we're reaching people all year long, as opposed to just when we're on History Channel and when we're doing new launches. So that's kind of the strategy for it. And the first couple were really successful and fun. And what I think you'll like about it is almost all of them are filmed in Michigan, because that's where we're from. That's where we're at every day.
I do like that.
Yeah,
Kyle, you talk about doing things your own way. You guys have been really, and maybe it's the age. Maybe it's because you're younger and you haven't put yourself in a box yet. Or maybe it's just your personality that you never will put yourself in a box. But you and your crew have this ability to do things your own way and to approach things from a unique perspective. If you would have done this traditional way, you never would have ended up on the History Channel. So you have this gift.
Well, I appreciate that very much. I think what it is like we just had a distinct goal that was downrange as opposed to this close. I mean, we had offers from different sponsors and stuff, but they wanted our show to become basically an infomercial when we were younger. And we're like, no, that wasn't the plan. Then we had other big networks that were willing to take us on, but they wanted us to take the Bible verse out of the show. So I refused. And I knew that the path that God had for us would be one where I wouldn't have to shy away from him. So we just kept our eyes on God, kept our eyes on the goal, and it just eventually came together. But not without trials and tribulation. Like I said, the first 4 years were terrible, to be honest with you. I mean, it was terrible. No views, no sponsors, no money. Nobody cared. Everything you were doing, you were stretching for. But for anyone out there in the same position that's trying to do something similar, you just keep trucking away at it, because eventually the world gives in. If you don't give in, the world will.
And I got to, you and I approach this from an outdoor perspective, but I got to believe that's the case in any industry. If you're just willing to bang your head against the wall long enough, you're going to wear people down.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that. And if you're passionate about something, it makes it easy to go to work every day and focus on it. I mean, it's like, yeah, those first 4 years, like I said, were terrible as far as like the mental complexities of money and those situations and stuff, but we were still outside in the field having fun with our best friends. You know what I mean? So find something that you're passionate about and just be willing to go to war for it and sacrifice whatever it takes. And that's why it's like, I didn't get married at a young age specifically so that I could do that. Because once you're married and have kids and stuff, you have those responsibilities. And I take that very seriously. I had great parents, so I followed that leadership. But I didn't want to get married and have kids until I knew that I fulfilled everything that I could. Not saying that once you're married you can't, but it certainly limits your time. That's why I say for young people too, is like get your eye downrange on what you really want, what the ideal situation is, and then work backwards, figuring out each step along the way, and be prepared for the devil to hit you in the face, because if whatever you do includes God, he's going to be coming full force for you.
Kyle, you are wise beyond your years. Hang tight. We got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. We're talking with Kyle Green of the Greenway Outdoors. The website, thegreenwayoutdoors.com, thegreenwayoutdoors.com. Keep an eye on this guy. Keep an eye on this guy and a crew. He's one of the up-and-comers. There's no doubt about that. And he's right here in Michigan, so I love that. Thegreenwayoutdoors.com, thegreenwayoutdoors.com. Again, we will take that break. When we come back, wrap up our conversation with Kyle Green from the Greenway Outdoors right here on Outdoor Magazine. can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Manistee on WMLQ 97.7 FM. You can hear us just down the road, just down the coast, in fact, in Muskegon on WKBZ. That's 1090 AM. And let's jump over to the other side of the state. You can hear us in Tawas, WIOS, 1480 AM, 106.9 FM. In fact, you can hear us twice each weekend on WIOS. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Killer Food Plots, Michigan-based, family-owned Killer Food Plots. Now, look, I know you're not putting in food plots right now, but you've just finished a long hunting season that in a lot of cases involved your food plots. You were either hunting over your food plots or you were hunting away from the food plots, but using those plots as a way to keep the deer on your property. This is the time of year to start thinking about what you're going to do this spring. How are you going to do things differently? What did you like? What did you not like? What do you want to change? Killer Food Plots can help you out with this. Rich Krazan does property management. He can help you decide what seed to plant, how to plant that seed. Don't forget about your soil samples. And we're not that far. I mean, it's just down the road. So start thinking about it now. And start thinking about how you can use Michigan-based, family-owned Killer Food Plots to help your season next year. That's killerfoodplots.com, killerfoodplots.com. Speaking of this Michigan connection that I love so much, Kyle Green of the Greenway Outdoors TV, greenwayoutdoors.com is the website. Young guy, Southern Michigan guy, who is making a name for himself nationally in this world of outdoor communication. Kyle, did you ever think when you were a kid growing up in Southern Michigan you'd be where you are at this young age?
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. Yes.
Yeah. You know what? I from the time I was young, it was really funny too. I was talking about my parents a little bit. You know, my mom is my biggest cheerleader in the world, but my mom is also one of those women who despise weak men. So my entire life, she was my biggest cheerleader, but she never allowed like me to act weak or be weak or not think ahead or not believe in myself. She was always pounding that into me. So from a young age, I always believed I could do anything because I really did have the best parents in the world that told me I could, you know. But I'll tell you what, if I backtalk an adult or I disrespecting anyone, my parents also believed in spanking. So it wasn't without discipline. But at the same time, they were just so supportive and made me believe. And then to this day, even now, if like in the last 8 years, if I ever said anything negative or I'm not sure about this or I'm not sure about that, my mom would be like, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I mean, it just wasn't accepted. So I have to say, yes, I did believe.
And now when you look at the types of things you're doing, you're traveling the country and even beyond, hunting and fishing adventures, what stands out in your mind? What has been the most fun or had the most impact on you?
I would say two things. One, the bonding of friendship with my team. Again, we're all best friends. We all own the company and we own the whole thing completely. So we're not owned by anybody. So it's like this us against the world mindset where we always have to try and fight and do whatever it takes to succeed. And that goes through with, you know, if we go out and try and film something, we kind of have to succeed in some way, shape, or form, even if it's not with whatever we're pursuing. The story has to be good. The pre-production of the people we're going to meet with, the post-production, the editing, whatever we can do to improve that bonding experience of feeling like you're going to war with people to make the best product possible. I would say that's probably the biggest shaping point of my life. And then secondly, I just really enjoy the people we meet, and it never surprises me. Kind of like how, you know, you'll know this. You travel and stuff too. You know, when you travel around and like you come to a body of water and just about everybody near that body of water has kind of a similar boat. You know what I mean? Like they've got the boat that's set up for that area. Whether the Manistee River, you run into the people with these metal jet boats. You know what I mean? And then you go out to a certain lake and everybody's got pontoon boats. Well, in the same way, it's kind of like everywhere I go, I find these people that are really passionate about the conservation of a species in that area. And to see how much goes into each story of like what they're doing to help it. Example would be like we went to Maine and did a moose hunt. So we're there moose hunting and the winter ticks there are killing all the moose. Their mortality rate right now is 85% for the calves and the cows, the females as well. And the reason being isn't because of like disease transfer, it's from blood loss. You're talking hundreds of thousands of ticks getting on all these moose and sucking them dry. because the winter tick, it lives its entire lifespan, all 3 cycles on one organism, sucking them dry. So they can't make it through the winter, and the calf can't survive. So there's so much work going in now to lower the overall population number in order to kill off the winter ticks, because it's a species-specific problem. So if they can get rid of the moose now, let the ticks die off, and then start to bring moose back in, it will save the moose population, 10 to 20 years from now. It'll be good again. And it's like those deep stories that I'm seeking out in each area. It's just so inspirational, and you become so grateful that there's people doing those jobs. And it makes you want to shout from the mountaintops, like, hunting and fishing is saving species. If hunters and fishermen didn't exist, those ticks would run rampant, completely eliminate all the moose, and then have the time to change enough to start moving on to other species. And who knows what would happen from there. So it's because of hunters that's being stopped, because we buy our moose tag for $800, and that money goes towards the conservation. So it's like learning those stories in each spot and wanting to shout it from the mountaintops, because every story is so intricate. Where someone reads my squirrel post and says, "You're a bad person for squirrel hunting." And then someone reads it and says, "You're a bad person for moose hunting." But then I show them all the data and all the facts, and they can't argue with me anymore, because they realize we're right. And at the end of the day, hands-on conservation is the key. So, that's why we wake up every day. So I guess the 2 things would be going to war with your best friends to get better every day. And then on top of that, shouting these stories from the mountaintop, because I don't want to be in a situation 20 years from now where I'm in a "I told you so" situation, because by then it's too late. So we're just carrying on exactly what you've been preaching for years.
If you're having a conversation with a rational thinking person and you put that information in front of them of why hunting, as an example, is necessary in so many cases, fine. The thing that drives me crazy, though, is when we start dealing with the hardcore antis who will not listen to reason. They will not listen to fact. They are convinced that what we are doing is evil, that we're bad, violent people, and we have no place doing what we are. They will not listen to those arguments. That's what drives me crazy, Kyle.
Yeah, and they exist. They're on my Facebook if you're looking for them, but they do exist. And at the end of the day, though, that's with anything with politics. That's with religion. That's with trying to teach people about God. You run into those people everywhere. I unfortunately find myself trying to break those nuts, like to crack them and make them realize the truth. But like you said, it's kind of beating your head against the wall. But once in a great while, you'll find people that open up to it and listen to reason. And, if you can just change one, the person that is changed from the other side becomes the biggest voice for our side, because they know what the other people are thinking. They can say, "Oh, I know that's why you think that, because I did too, but listen to this." Mm-hmm. So I'll never quit trying.
So what big adventures do you have on the calendar? Where do you want to go? What do you want to hunt? What do you want to fish for that you haven't done yet?
Well, the one thing we're doing this year, and we're still working out the details on it, is we're going to Hawaii to hunt for feral cows. Yeah, I said that correctly. 150 years ago, on the Big Island, a bunch of cows got loosed into the mountains, and they bred and bred and bred and bred. And now years and years and years and generations later, you've got cows that have never been confined, that have never been neutered, that have never been, and then people go, "What's a cow?" I say, "Have you been to the rodeo lately?" You know what I mean? Now imagine that times 10, because they're smart and they're difficult to kill, and they're running rampant, because they'll, as you can imagine, wipe out farmers' crops and stuff like that. You can't have an overpopulation of giant animals like that just consuming everything they get their hands on. So we're doing that. We're going to be doing some spear fishing in addition to that, and squirrel hunting and everything in between. So the adventures coming up are going to be great. I am really excited about that one in Michigan, though, that storytelling for the Christmas special. We're going to be doing an old-fashioned whitetail hunt. We're going to donate the meat. We're going to take it to the soup kitchens. We're going to feed it. We're going to include a little scene from our church and stuff like that. It's going to be funny. It's going to be entertaining. And I can only draw it up so much because the hunts have to take place, and we'll see what happens, right? But I'm really excited to tell that story too, because hunters provide hundreds of thousands of meals a year, and people don't realize it. And that's another big argument when you're facing those antis, how important that truly is.
I'm still hung up on this idea of feral cows in Hawaii. In fact, I just did a Google search on it. I just looked it up, Kyle, and what a crazy hunt this is going to be, because these cattle, of course, are huge. They eat a lot. I can see where they do a lot of damage, and I think of them as dumb farm animals that I grew up with, when I was growing up on the farm. To have them be feral and wild and a huntable species, that's just crazy.
Well, they're saying that it is 7 times more dangerous than a grizzly bear hunt.
Really?
Yeah, wrap your head around that.
Wow.
It's like, and they say that you have to, they recommend headshots. They do not recommend vital shots, because vital shots will not do it fast enough. And they're smart enough to know where it came from, and now they're coming for you. And they're working, I don't know if it happened yet, but they were actually, right? They're trying to make it illegal to bow hunt for them. Not because it's inhumane or they don't want people bow hunting, but simply because it isn't enough to do it quickly. And if you're going to get that close to them, you're going to get it.
I can't wait to see this show.
Well, good. Yeah, no, I'm that one specifically. And then spearfishing too. I've got like a healthy fear of the ocean when I'm in there. I'm gonna man up and do it, but like going where you're going to see sharks for sure, and spearfishing is its own sense of, I don't know. It gives me the heebie-jeebies a little bit.
So, Kyle, where's the best place if we want to find your content on air, online? Where do you send us? Where do you direct us?
Well, I'd send you to the greenwayoutdoors.com or historychannel.com or History Streaming if you've got the History Streaming app on your phone. But I will tell you, within the next few weeks, you will be able to find our show from History Channel everywhere. Roku, Tubi, Pluto, Carbon TV, just about everywhere. The licensing switches from it just being on History Streaming to all those platforms. So I would say by February 1st, you can count on finding our show just about anywhere. But we constantly update our website, thegreenwayoutdoors.com, in order to let people know where to find it.
Kyle, congrats. Keep up the good work. I will look forward to following your adventures, and I'll look forward to talking to you again here on the Outdoor Magazine Show.
Thank you, Mike. Have a wonderful day.
You as well. Kyle Green of the Greenway Outdoors TV, the website, thegreenwayoutdoors.com, thegreenwayoutdoors.com. I'm still trying to wrap my head around a feral cow hunt in Hawaii. More coming up after the break. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Traverse City on WTCM 580 AM. You can hear us in Houghton Lake on the Twister 92.1 WTWS. And you can hear us in Saginaw on WSGW 790 AM 100.5 FM. I am in the studios of WSGW right now. And Charlie Root just made me aware it's been 19 years that I've been working out of the studios of WSGW. Charlie, you've been here the whole time. You're like an old guy around here by now, aren't you? Yeah, well. And usually, when the weather's nice, there are people lined up waiting to wish Charlie well as he leaves the building for the day. Charlie, it is so cold today, there is nobody out there. And you don't blame him, do you? Nope, not at all. So, Charlie, appreciate your help, as always. Also appreciate the fact that this segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by the good folks at Reader Landscaping. Reader can take care of your lawn and property because it's your nature and our nurture. Let them create an outdoor getaway in your backyard. And it's not too early, again, to start thinking about spring. If you got a project you want the folks from Reader to work with you on, get on their radar screen now. The website, readerlandscaping.com, readerlandscaping.com. And if you have decided that you have shoveled enough snow for this season, Reader can still help you out there. I saw the Reader crews all over the place last week. Readerlandscaping.com, that's readerlandscaping.com. I can't get this thought of a feral cow hunt in Hawaii out of my brain. Kyle Green of the Greenway Outdoors TV show was talking about it in the previous segment. So I looked at it online. My frame of reference is a kid growing up on a farm, and we had cows. and they were big. And they weren't the brightest, and they were pretty gentle, except for the bulls. Now, we never had bulls. Well, we did. We had one, but you know, the neighbors that would have bulls, there was a healthy. Well, I was a kid. And there was a healthy fear. So now I'm reading online that these are like they're Herefords. The modern Hawaiian wild cattle is a fairly distinctive feral breed. Smaller than the average Hereford cattle, the wild breeds tend to have longer legs and a stronger temperament. A mature Hawaiian bull can weigh as much as 2,000 pounds. The bulls are also prone to charging when cornered, so care is needed, especially wild cattle tend to be faster and more agile than the average cattle. Kyle can't wait to see that show. That's going to be a good one. When I hear about the adventures that this young guy is involved in, it makes the topics that I talk about sometimes seem so mundane. For example, I want to remind you that our Trinity Monitor Wild Game Dinner and Auction is coming up Saturday, March 2nd, and tickets are now on sale. We sold a bunch of them the first day. We will sell this event out, but I'd love to have you there. We have wonderful dinner. We have online auction. We have I think it's a great live auction where we're giving you the chance to bid on things such as an African safari. Last year, our high bidders on this safari, they just got back. They sent me a bunch of pictures. What an adventure. You can bid on that. You can bid on a bear hunt in the UP with Johnny Bowler, the bear whisperer. A coyote hunt with Matt Schock, who was the Michigan Predator Hunters Association Hunter of the Year a couple of years ago. A couple of very fun youth hunts. Saginaw Bay walleye trip with Captain Doug Ward. Detroit River walleye trip with Captain Mark Pananzek. You have a chance to bid on a fishing trip with me on Saginaw Bay. And I've really had to scale those back. Last year, I overcommitted. I love doing charity trips on the Angler Quest to help raise funds for groups. And we were having so much fun and raising so much money last year that I got carried away, and I committed to too many trips. So this year, I got to cut back. But if you want to have a chance to bid on a trip with me on Saginaw Bay, this is one of your options. Again, tickets available now. Go to the website, one.bidpal.net, one.bidpal.net/Trinity Monitor, or go to my Facebook page. There's a QR code on the Facebook page. Just scan that code from your phone, and it'll take you right to the website. We will sell out. Tickets available now. Love to see you there. Also, another event that I'm plugging, promoting, pushing, in favor of, supporting. Again, this year we're going back to Ohio. You heard Bill, possibly, if you're with us in the first hour of the show. A hunt with Bill Pyles of Ohio Bowhunting Outfitters in Ohio, the third week in October, this year the 21st to the 25th. This is something that I and some of my friends and some of our listeners have been doing for the past few years. We've moved the hunt back a week. This year it's closer to the rut. Should be good. Bill's website, ohiobowhuntingoutfitters.com, ohiobowhuntingoutfitters.com. Also, though, if you would like to be a part of this, you can just reach out to me directly, and I will put you on our list, and I'll put you in touch with Bill. My email address is mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. That's mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. Shoot me an email. I'll give you the details, the dates again, the price, what this includes, how to get in touch with Bill. Love to have you join us. It's a lot of fun. If you're looking for an out-of-state whitetail hunt, never done one before, this is a great way to ease into it. You'll be there with friends, with people you know. It's an area I can vouch for. It's an operation I do vouch for with good people. October 21st to the 25th, ohiobowhuntingoutfitters.com. My email address, mike@mikeaveryoutdoors.com. We'll take a break, wrap this whole thing up with wild game chef extraordinaire, Dixie Dave Minar. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. My name is Mike Avery. So glad to have you along with us. My website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Don't hesitate to check both those out. Send me an email. Love to hear what you've got on your mind. I like to wrap up each week's show with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. Just a great guy. Good friend of mine. Known him forever. David, welcome back to the show. How you doing, buddy?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Healing up nice.
Yeah, you surprised me here. I talked to you the other day. I said, how you doing? He said, oh, pretty good. I had surgery yesterday. I'm like, what?
Yeah, I had spinal surgery.
David, you continue to amaze me. There was one time you were having a heart attack, and I called you. You were in the parking lot of ER. You did the show. Now you had back surgery earlier in the week. Didn't tell me anything about it. What are you, like the Iron Man?
I wish. If I was Iron Man, I would have none of these problems.
But you feel like it's helping you already, though, right?
Actually, I can bend over and tie my shoes now.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'm so glad to hear that, Dave. So glad to hear that.
There's a fair amount of pain, but it's tolerable.
Well, good.
Compared to what it was.
Continue to heal up. Our thoughts and prayers are with you. Hey, I got another comment here, too. A guy reached out to me last week. He sent me an email, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. He said, hey, can I get that recipe that you did last week? And it got me thinking, Dave, whenever you do a recipe that's in the cookbook, please let me know, and then I will take that recipe out of the cookbook and I'll put it on my Facebook page, because I'm constantly getting requests from people for those recipes. Is that something you're okay if we do that?
Absolutely. What did we do last week? I forgot.
It was a walleye. It was, I don't remember what it was, but what do we got this week? Let's start here. What are we doing this week?
Well, we got a simmered rabbit, seeing how that season should be in full swing by now.
Is that in the cookbook?
Yes, it is.
What page?
149.
Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take page 149 out of the cookbook. I'll scan it or something, and I'll put it on my Facebook page so people can see this. And we're going to start doing this every week then, Dave. I think this is a good idea.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I never thought of that. That would give people something they can actually work with instead of trying to remember.
Exactly. So let's go through it anyway here, Dave.
All right. So we're going to use 2 to 3 wild rabbits. They're not all that big, and this could be for 4 portions. You need a medium onion diced fine. You could use apple schnapps or apple jelly for this, because it's it's got apples and heavy cream in it. You need 1.5 to 2 jars of brown gravy. Maybe, say 2 cups of apples peeled and sliced thin. Maybe about 2 ounces or 3 ounces of heavy cream, a little olive oil, salt and pepper to taste, flour, and some cooked noodles or rice to put this dish on after it's all done. So you want to cut the rabbit into serving size pieces, and if you use a shotgun to hunt rabbits with, hold up the pieces of meat to a light bulb that's quite bright, and you'll be able to see. It's almost like an X-ray. It shows you where any of the fur and the pellets have got injected in the meat. Sprinkle black pepper all over the rabbit, dredge it in flour, and in a saute pan with a small amount of olive oil. Brown it on both sides. Don't crowd the pieces. You want to fry the rabbit in maybe 2, 3, 4 batches. Put it in an oven-proof casserole when you get them done. Same pan, add the onions and the garlic and saute that for just a couple minutes to break the flavor loose. And then what you can do is add the schnapps or the apple jelly. Simmer it for a minute or two, just slowly, because you don't want to burn that jelly because it's full of sugar. And then add the brown gravy, bring it up to a boil, dump it over the meat, taste it at this point. Make sure that it's the flavor you're looking for. You can always add now, but you can't do it near the end because it'll be cooked and the rabbit will be falling off the bone. Put it in the 350-degree oven for uncovered. You want to kind of cook that down a little bit, and you want to cook at least an hour, maybe more, maybe an hour and a half. Check it for tenderness. And then if it's starting to get nice and tender, this is where you add the apples and the cream. And make sure you cook it for only about 15 minutes more. And then you can serve this over buttered noodles or rice, and it's just a killer dish. I'm telling you what. You could use this with pheasant, grouse, squirrel, anything like that.
No, it sounds great. And again, this is on page 149 of the cookbook. I'm going to scan this recipe. I'm going to start putting it on the Facebook page. And it was actually a listener who suggested we start doing this. And Dave, I think it's a great idea.
Me too.
All right. So, David, we're losing you here a little bit. I'm going to let you go. I'm glad you're feeling better, and I'll look forward to talking to you next week. All right?
All righty. We'll do that walleye recipe next week.
Sounds good. Wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar, a big part of the Outdoor Magazine show. And a big thank you. And I can't remember the guy's name. He's a charter captain. And he said, man, I want to start getting these recipes. And I got thinking, I got Dave's huge cookbook. He takes these recipes right out of the cookbook. So why not start putting them online so people can see them? And we're going to start doing that this week. So thank you for that. And if you have a suggestion, comment, criticism for me, let me know. Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My name is Mike Avery. This show is called Outdoor Magazine. Don't forget about my Wednesday night live segments and my behind the mic streaming segments. Let's try to stay warm, and we'll talk to you next time right here on Outdoor Magazine.